Hello, everyone, and happy International Women's Month. Thank you for joining us today as we celebrate Eritrean women all over. Eritrean women are the backbone of our families, of our communities, and of our country. And so today we're going to be having a conversation with 3 young women who have grown up working in our Eritrean communities around Eritrean women and have accomplishments of their own that they'll share with us as well. Eritrean women also have an organization that they started in 1979. It's called Hamade, also known as the National Union of Eritrean Women. This organization has worked towards creating equal opportunities for women in Eritrea, and it's still existing today. So I would love for our 3 panelists to share how this has shaped them as women and how this organization has impacted their lives. Our 3 panelists today are Metkel Johannes from Oakland, YPF-DJ. She's been in YPF-DJ for 15 years, and now she's a mom and still super active in the community. We have Haven Tesfa Mariam Barakat Ab, and she's from Seattle, YPF-DJ, served for 5 years and served for 2 years as the head of HIDRI. And then we have Deani Taile, and she is our chairperson for Hamade in Canada. So thank you, ladies, for being here today, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you. Let's start with Deani. As the chairperson for Hamade Canada, could you tell us more about Hamade, also known as the National Union of Eritrean Women, what that organization stands for, some of the accomplishments, and things that you would love for our viewers to know about it?
Very well. First of all, thank you for having me, everyone, and welcome, and happy International Women's Month, I should call it. And well, Hamade, like you said, it was NUEW. It was founded in November 1979 in the course of the Eritrean armed struggle for the independence. What makes it very special, not because it's only for Eritreans women that is special, is that it was not organized on the goodwill of groups that was struggled out there doing the women's contribution, the groundwork, by participating and showing themselves that they're able to participate. It makes it special when we say Hamade, and the equality was, indisputable. The contribution that they've shown for the independence. So, and the vision is the gender discrimination, and to a developed nation in our country. Enjoying a peace, social justice, and a prosperity to all the citizens as well. And the mission, again, for the women's politically, economically, culturally, equally, men and women, with participation of diverse background, of course, throughout the country. The values that we guard as NUEW or Hamade is that safeguarding our country, that's top priority, still is, and as well as in social justices and social developments to have equal opportunities equally. And we're also work on the traditional laws that oppresses women to make sure those ones are out of our way or that's hindering our women's. And developing partnerships. It could be within the national or international organizations so that we could be working together. And continuously advocating for the struggle of Eritrean women by the next generation, which leaves us, equal access for any and every aspect of our women's within the country and as well as abroad, for economically, socially, education, health, in every aspect. And the slogan as it goes for NUEW or Hamade is always equality through equal participation and work until, all the barriers, other aspects are removed and women become productive citizens and sufficient in every aspects. And those are the main things. And the accomplishments are various accomplishments. For instance, in Eritrea, to make sure women have the right to own a land. So that was also a proclamation within it, and also guaranteed the continuation of involving young generation of women and professionals, in entrepreneurship, students, and rural areas as well, so that everybody has equal access. Maintaining continuous of the increased education for girls beyond mid-level of schooling. That was one of the accomplishments as well that it's been worked on. Increasing enrollment of women in territory, especially in education. So as we can see, we have many women nowadays graduating in every aspect, regardless of gender bias throughout the country. Community female health promoters are everywhere. All the traditional aspects of where was hindering them to make sure to advocate the areas where women will not be hindered by it. And I can go on and on, but it will need like an actual a day to just describe the accomplishment. It's just phenomenal. Even about that, although within the communities, as you said, Luam, they're the backbone of any communities within any of the cities. So Eritrean women are the strongest, very forward, absolute. No matter what, nothing stops them in order to accomplish anything at any levels. And another thing that makes it special is it doesn't matter at what level the woman can participate. We always have a way of equally, respectfully, with her capacity, where she can put in her input. So that's what Hamade is. As short as possible, I can tell you.
Thank you, Danit. So, as we know, Eritrean women, even back to when we were in our armed struggle, Eritrean women were not only really active, there were many Eritrean women that participated. I believe it was half Eritrean women at least, right, that participated. And also they were leaders in the armed struggle. And at that time, that was unheard of. So just starting from there, I mean, Eritrean women are extremely strong. And I know for me, knowing that I come from that inspires me every single day. And it shapes the person that I am as I'm navigating life. So I would love to hear from each of you what Hamade means to you, or even just what the Eritrean woman means to you. And we can start with Heaven.
Yeah, first I just want to say thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to talk about this wonderful organization that is Hamade. So thank you to Luam, Sedle, and everybody else who was involved in this process in making this project happen. So I just want to start off by saying I appreciate you all for that. And I think Hamade to me is the perfect representation of Eritrea's dedication to women and women's rights. Hamade, or the National Union of Eritrean Women, is a nationally recognized organization that has the support of both the government and the Eritrean people, specifically established to educate and empower Eritrean women. To me, that's the ultimate show of support that a country and a government can show to women. It truly shows that women are a priority, and that's something that definitely needs to continue to be celebrated and encouraged to the fullest to continue. So I think that's Hamade to me is just it's the epitome of Eritrea's government and people's support for women.
Thank you, Heaven, for that. And Metzko?
Thank you so much for giving us this platform to share our, or to speak on the role of our mothers and grandmothers and generations to come. I appreciate it. Hamade for me was the first example of a female-led activism, right? I watched my mother, grandmother, plenty of women in my life, Eritrean women to be exact, work tirelessly to organize, raise funds, and, play a big role in our independence and, just build consciousness all around us Eritrean women, and just instill some sense of strength and a grounding force as a woman, which I can pass on to my two daughters. So it's immeasurable what they have done and what they continue to do.
Thank you, Metka. And Danny?
For me, it starts, I could say, at home, of course. It's watching just like everybody else. My mother being involved from as young as I can remember. I was part of Hamade at the age of 12. The minute she understood that I can comprehend the information that was being given to me, she made sure I was involved and followed her footsteps by not just by telling me, but doing it with her, shadowing her every step of the way. So that did have a lot of impact on me. And of course, as well as all the women involved in my life, I've been very fortunate and lucky enough. Majority of them been in the armed struggle for the independence, and as well as doing a very heavy impact on the communities. So watching all of them growing up made me feel like I can honestly say that I can put myself in any position or go to anywhere, and I would have no fear to just do it. It sounds crazy, I know, but I because of that feeling, I've been to places I can never imagine at a very young age, and I always have that at the back of my head. Nahna tagadalti, they did this, so why not? So, and that gives me the boost when I'm faced with challenges. And for me, it's my guidebook in life, basically, watching them do what they do.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more with everything you all said just now. It's Hamade women and Eritrean women in general. They're just absolutely amazing, and we're thankful to be, part of that, and be young Eritrean women and following in their footsteps. And as young Eritrean women, we have a role to play. We have big shoes to fill from the generations before us. Everything that they've accomplished, Eritrean women in general, and then of course Hamade. And I think that a lot of youth our age living in the diaspora feel, maybe that they're not sure how to continue this work. I really am inspired by Heaven, though. I feel like you've gone off to a wonderful start, and you've done something that deeply inspires me and a lot of people in our generation, which is going back home after graduating college and serving in Sawa, which to me is just absolutely amazing and inspiring, and a wonderful start to how you can continue that work. So Heaven, do you mind sharing what you believe the role of the next generation is, our role, and also maybe share with us a little bit about your experience in Sawa, why you decided to go, how it was, and what you learned from it?
Yeah. So I think, I believe our role is to continue to fight for Hamade's mission, but in the modern era. And not just for Eritrean women, but for all women globally. And the women's movement, I think over the years has changed and evolved since the founding of Hamade over 40 years ago. And there are issues we need to address today that may not have been on the organization's radar 40 years ago. When this organization began, our country was in a state of war, and the goal of Hamade was to educate women and ultimately to encourage them to be involved in the fight for independence. Today, education is still a goal for the organization, but since the country is no longer in an active state of war, I think that gives them more room and opportunity to kind of address more issues that have existed for years now, globally, but are just now in the past 5 to 10 years kind of getting the attention that they deserve, such as, female genital mutilation, underage marriages, and domestic violence, and all violence against women. I think as the next generation of Hamade, our role is to to continue those, to work with those who came before us, absorb their knowledge, experience, and history, and work to address those issues facing women today. So for me, my inspiration to kind of go back home for the past year, attend Sawa, and do my service has definitely been the women in my life. So that's my mom, my aunts, my grandmothers. They've just done phenomenal work in service to their country. And I think that is kind of what's special about Eritrean women. It's that they're so dedicated to not only their families, but also to their country and their people as a whole. I think Eritrean women view all Eritrean people as kind of their family, like their kids, their brothers, their sisters. It's the whole country is viewed as a family to them. And so they've kind of dedicated their whole lives to service of their country. So I witnessed my mom doing that. She was a member of the first round of national service. I witnessed my aunts doing that. I have an aunt who is the mother of 9, and she decided that she wanted to become a judge in the traditional courts of Eritrea. And she's been in service for the past 10 years or so. I have another aunt who's a mother of 4 and was just given the opportunity by the Eritrean government to go back to school at Mainefke College and study psychology. And after graduating, she decided to give back and continue serving her people and country as an educator. And I have one of my grandmothers who was half Ashudabat and contributed to the Eritrean Revolution in that way. So all these women have kind of just they are the ultimate Eritrean woman to me. And so they've kind of given me that motivation and inspiration to go back and serve in the ways that they did.
Thank you, Heaven. And do you mind sharing about Sawa and what that was like briefly, and what you learned when you went?
Yeah, Sawa was an absolutely incredible experience. And I think the best thing about it was the incredible people that I was able to meet. So I was on a base with 3,000 other women. I was in the 3rd division of Sawa, and it was absolutely incredible. So I was living in a Haile with 115 other women. It's kind of intimidating at first because you go in and, you're used to American lifestyle where, you have your own room or you're living with one other person, usually, your sister. And then suddenly it's you're in this huge hangar with 115 women that you don't know. And I went in after school had ended for them. So they had already been together for about 6 months. And then I was going in just when training was starting for them. So it was definitely intimidating at first. But that's the beautiful thing about Eritrean women is that they're always so welcoming, and they have this, community of sisterhood that they're just willing to come in and embrace everyone. So from the night that I arrived, they were all outside kind of waiting for me, oh, welcome, this is who I am. And it's overwhelming because I have 115 women coming to say hello to me, introduce themselves, and welcome me into this home that they had established for 6 months prior. So that was absolutely beautiful. And just over the 5 months that I was there, continuing these interactions with different women, I was able to meet someone from all 9 ethnic groups of our country. And that's beautiful because I don't think there's any other place in Eritrea that you can say I can meet everyone from each ethnic group, these different religions, different cultural backgrounds, all of that, just a melting pot of Eritrean women. And it's absolutely beautiful. And one of the things that I really it just really hit me was the harmony that was there, I was there for both Easter and Eid, and both times the Haile came together to celebrate both those holidays. And it was like, when it was Easter, all of the Muslim girls were helping the Christian girls decorate the house, come up with programs, all of that. Same thing in Eid, all of the Christian girls were helping the Muslim girls decorate the house, come up with programs, all of that. And it's just the religious harmony that was there was absolutely beautiful. So I think for me, the biggest takeaway was just the community that's built there, the sisterhood that's built there. I don't think you can really find that anywhere else. And I think that's why Sawa is such an important part of our country and for all our people, because it's just, there's nowhere else that you can really interact with that many people. You know, I was meeting people from all 6 districts, people from rural areas, urban areas, people who were, you know, just raised with different kinds of backgrounds. And everybody was just living, learning, and building community together. And I think that's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you so much for sharing. And then that sounds amazing. Hopefully I'll do the same thing you did and go back one day and also serve. I think that is that's definitely a goal I've always had. So thank you for your service, actually. And thank you for doing that and inspiring myself and everyone else. So the next thing I wanted to mention was, I think there's a misconception about Hamade that you have to be like older to join Hamade and actually join those all these efforts, these projects, and these things that they're doing, these goals and missions that Hamade has. And so I would love to hear from Deanit about the ways that we as young women, even young girls younger than us, how we can continue the work that Hamade has in place. If you could also talk about maybe dispel that myth about when you can join Hamade, and let us know, how we can kind of get started and when we can get started on supporting those missions.
Yes, actually, what I don't want to pass on is, again, Heaven, it's an honor to be beside you, and for the commendable service that you've done. You're really inspiring for all of us. So thank you for that. And yes, the misconception is what we hear all the time when we hear Hamade. Automatically, even a lot of us growing up here, we thought like, oh, okay, it's for our moms. We're just, chaperoning with them. It's the women thing, and but it's far more than that. Any young girl, especially for the NUEW, it would have to be 16 to be an actual member. So 16 years old, as of 16 years old, could be involved. Any young girl could be involved in NUEW or Hamade. So, but what I wanted to focus on is on the myth. The myth is usually, it became a word of mouth and also kind of just stayed there. Nobody really opened the curtain and say, no, that's not what it is. We all, I'm sure, abroad here been involved in a lot of women association or feminist activists. But what we didn't realize is we do have the most exemplary association in our own community, which is Hamade and me. And not only specifically serving Eritreans, but us who are here, we are serving Eritrean, but it doesn't matter whether we're abroad or within the country. All the issues that we're facing globally are pretty much the same. It's just that how we address it, in what language, in what sense, how we approach it, that makes a difference. So that is one of the reasons to break that barrier, is that we're making all the connections abroad with other associations who are just like us. So us as a woman, young women or a woman, we should get ourselves involved with NUEW, I believe. For me, the advantage was everything else that we hear or we face in abroad are the exact same issues. Some might differ, like Heaven was saying, but in additional globally right now, the bottom line or the main things that we're facing are the same. So we can relate to that. And also, it's also part of our identity. It came from Eritrea, so could it be any better? And So a lot of times we see that it's the women's or our mothers or our aunts are being involved in the communities are highly active. But well, here most of us who grew up here, we're still like today. It's not only through YPFDJ or the other sectors, but it's really through Hamade. It's our mothers who make sure we went to communities or who went to the Eritrean Independence Day or the Women's Day celebrations. So indirectly, we've all been involved, not just officially. So I would really highly suggest that officially anyone who is above 16 to register yourself to your local NUEW. And even if we don't have it, let's start the initiative to create it and talk about our own, as an Eritrean, let's say if I'm here, Canadian, the issues that affects us, and then also meet globally all the other Eritreans so that we can come up with a solution for anything that we were facing at this time. It doesn't have to be any bad. It could be even something good to share, like as we are today. I don't know if that's...
Yes, thank you. I completely agree, Danit. And I think another potential misconception is, or just a disconnect, I know for young women that are growing up here, is the impact that Hamade actually has had on our people, specifically women. Of course, we know that Eritrean women have fought for our country, and then we talked about how they're the backbone of everything that they're a part of, from our families to our communities to our country. And in addition to that, I think people don't know just how much have they fought for equality in Eritrea for women. And they've passed certain laws, they've made certain things possible for Eritrean women. And I definitely think that's something that people should know and that we can continue to participate in. Do you have anything to add on that?
Yes, I was actually going to mention that when our Prime Minister here in Canada, Justin Trudeau, was elected, the biggest change that everybody thought that they've seen in Canada is making the cabinet 30% of it, or actually half and half of women. And it was a big news in Canada. They're like, oh my God, it's women. How did you think of that? And he was being interviewed from left and right. And I was telling everyone within my work, colleagues and everywhere else, I'm like, it's nice, but Eritrea did that way back more than 30 years ago. And they were asking me how. I would go in and show them all the documentaries way back from during the struggle for the independence. And right now I would show them all our ministers, the women ministers giving their speeches, and they're like, we've never heard of it. I'm like, exactly. So I would use that example every time, especially for the Canadian young women or Eritrean, is that here you go. You know, when the Prime Minister did it, it was a big deal, but where are we? Back then, the Eritrean, we already did it. So it's just a little bit of awareness and advocacy for us to understand that what we have within ourselves, our country, it's something beyond everybody else has not done. Actually, there's many untold stories that everybody did not notice, because every time I say it, it becomes a wow factor. So you're absolutely right, and it's truly a blessing to be an Eritrean woman at this moment. Every time I say that.
I completely agree. It is definitely a major blessing. And as we talk about Hamade and us as young women, and of course the young women even younger than us, hopefully being a part of these efforts and really learning about just how powerful the Eritrean woman is and just how far it goes, you know, way past like the parties and all the things that they already do to enhance our lives and our culture. How far it actually goes. And so I was going to say, Metkel, could you talk more about what you would like the youth to know about Hamade or the impact the Eritrean woman has had on our people?
For me, personally speaking, you know, my mother has been an active member of Hamade prior to me even learning how to walk, right? So she's I've been in the environment and I've seen how much they've contributed towards, women's health in terms of education of that, um, you know, um, all these cultural, breaking barriers in terms of cultural, history of, GMU or whatever when you go into those things. Um, but most importantly, it's just like being self-reliant as a woman. I'm an independent woman today because of the values they instilled in us, and these are values that I can instill in my daughters just based on, the environment that we were brought up in. And, Diane spoke on like the diversity and like the political platform, something that has been a part of our history before we even existed as Eritrea, before we gained our independence. Skills to advocate for ourselves as women, these I think are important values that should be instilled in the generations to come, and we can continue that by supporting Hamade, whether it be education, whether it be, funding and, just contributing in whatever skills we may have and whatever assets we may have to help it grow and flourish. I mean, not that it hasn't grown and flourished, but, it's just because it's an impactful organization that makes a big part of Eritrea, so that is something I would want my kids and my daughters to know and, generations to come.
Thank you, Metkal. Yes, I completely agree with that as well. It's just, to me, it's like when I think about being an Eritrean woman and just being, so you think about being a woman in general, just in the world, and then you think about being an Eritrean woman. And something I truly value is that equality in women is something that's valued in our culture in general. And I believe that Hamades made that possible. They fought for that. They made that be something that everybody else would value. And so now everyone fights for it. Men and women in our country, they want Eritrean women to have equal opportunities. Our government ensures that there's, equal opportunities in education and have made major improvements. And that wouldn't have been possible without Hamade and without the Eritrean women. So that's something that I'm extremely grateful for, especially because in the world as a woman, we're constantly having to create opportunities for ourselves or fight for ourselves so that we're treated equally. And so I love that it's already kind of ingrained in our culture, and it wouldn't have been possible without Hamade. So another thing I would love to talk about now is, I know for me as a young Eritrean woman, being Eritrean itself is already extremely humbling, and it shapes the way that I live. When I'm in the world, I'm I'm Eritrean. That means a lot to me. It means many things. And when I'm navigating my life or making decisions, keeping that in my mind, it literally impacts the way that I make decisions, the things that I choose to do, the things that I choose to involve myself in, how I carry myself, all these things, just knowing that I come from the Eritrean people, but then coming from an Eritrean woman, I'm I can't let them down. I have to, I have to move through life a certain way and make sure that I'm making them proud. So it shaped me tremendously. And so I would love to hear from each of you how Eritrean women and even Hamade as well has shaped you as a woman in, throughout your life so far. And we can start with Metka.
For me, Hamade has shaped me to be a self-reliant woman, first and foremost. I think is something that I carry on to advocate for myself, to the essence of hard work and commitment and devotion to something that is that is substantial to who you are as a woman in this crazy world that we live in. You look at the Western world where they say it's a progressive world where equality stands, and then you look at the gap in income and pay rates and, just this divide that has been sort of brushed under the rug that never existed in our world. So to see that and to see how much of an impact and how much of a role they play in our society is just it's humbling, and I carry that with pride, and it's a driving force for me as a woman, as a mother. I have 2 girls, and that is something that is immeasurable, and I just wouldn't trade, so I'm fortunate to be from that society or that community.
Thank you, Edka. Heaven?
I think when I think of Hamade, I think of the ultimate Eritrean woman who is intelligent, courageous, and dedicated to her values. And when I think of those women, I think of my grandmothers, my aunts, and my mom, who I mentioned earlier, who have had a huge role in shaping the woman that I am today. And I think, as Mezcal was saying, one of the things that they have taught me is to be self-reliant, to be independent, and to go after what I want. And it was these women's unwavering dedication to their values that inspired me to attend Sawa, where I was able to witness literally thousands of young Eritrean women continuing their education, gaining invaluable experiences, and building sisterhood with other Eritreans. This experience is going to shape how I view Eritrean women and all women for the rest of my life, and motivate me to work harder for the rights that all women globally deserve. So I think being raised by these strong, incredible Eritrean women, and then being able to witness Sawa on a base with 3,000 Eritrean women, female CEOs, and working as nurses on the base. So just having like all these different roles in Sawa, I think it was just very motivating and inspiring. And it's just gonna push me to continue to be self-reliant and independent, and to continue to work for my people and country.
Thank you, Heaven. Danny?
For me, like I said earlier, it's practically has become it's become my guidebook. I wake up and my thought, starts to generate. My generator starts with Eritrean women thoughts. What I come to understand is that throughout the years, is the definition of even the words when we use it in the diaspora, and as well as an Eritrean woman, it's different. For instance, when we say the first thing that, as all of you agree, is self-reliant for ourselves. And when we say self-reliant ourselves, it means, economically, education, in every aspect. But what makes it even more richer when it comes to Eritrean women is that just because I'm self-reliant and I do everything for myself, I'm able in every level, that doesn't mean that I forget everything that's around me. That's what Eritrean woman makes her different, is that she makes sure everybody around her, regardless of who, whether it's siblings, a family, even any Eritreans, they kind of bring along with them. So they're technically a leader. So that's the definition that I chose and that I liked, and that what I've noticed throughout the many years of history of Eritrean women and struggle up until now. So I like that definition better, and I use that in my everyday, day-to-day routine. And I can go on in the vocabulary, and every time I just switch it back to the Eritrean woman thought, and I'll be like, I like this one better. And then a lot of the places, even from myself in my life, that I've used for work, life, for me and my thoughts right now, believe it or not, there is no barrier. just like we always say with the can-do people, I want to do something. I'm just thinking about it, how to do it. I don't say like, it's not up to my level, or I don't have the education level, or I don't have the skills. I always know it's going to be something I'm going to do, but I find a way, a return way. And that comes from many years of our slogan of the can-do people. So I love that. I always use that in my life. I use that on my kids and everyone around me, and I think it's beautiful, and I see it even inspiring other non-Eritreans. When I talk about Eritrea itself or Eritrean women, my face lights up, and the NUEW accomplishments every time. I can just talk about it all day, and I could go on, but it's just has become my guide go-to thoughts when I think about doing anything and involve myself in every aspect way. I always carry our great martyrs, women who gave us this opportunity to have this positions or this platform. And the other beauty thing is that me growing up within the Eritrean community, it's because of NUEW or Hamade, I was able to get myself involved in many different levels. If I was to go outside the world, as we know, there's always criterias and the hiring process, but I was able to get an amazing experience that I could use it in my daily life, hands-on experience, which is an amazing reference. So for me, it has been a platform where I can grow myself personally and even work-wise and career-wise. I've grown myself so much out of it. Is that it's amazing. The impact that it has on me, I can go on all day.
Thank you. Yes, same here. I mean, for me, it's like I have so much pride just knowing that I come from women that are like this. I'm like, these are my Eritrean women. I come from them. And that to me is extremely empowering. We have International Women's Day on March 8th, but then we celebrate all month. But really, we should be celebrating all year, and we do kind of unofficially, because the accomplishments of Eritrean women are just endless. The impact that they have in our lives, I mean, on every level, like I said, like in our families, in our personal, individual lives, like our mothers, our family members or non-family members, the impact that they've had in every aspect of our lives is just undeniable. I think everyone recognizes that and agrees that's something we're all on the same page on, that we couldn't do anything without Eritrean women's influence. So I just want to say happy International Women's Month, and especially to our Eritrean women. They've fought for women empowerment and us to have equal rights. I mean, if we were to go into detail about the things that they've actually accomplished and laws that have been passed, or certain opportunities that have been available to women in Eritrea, things that have improved in healthcare and education, in finance, you name it. Eritrean women, and Hamada specifically, is behind it. Most likely you'll know that Eritrean women are behind all of that. And so I definitely want to encourage myself, for sure. I'm still learning about Hamade. I'm super active in YPFDJ, but I'm still learning about Hamade. But I want to encourage myself and other young women to get involved with Hamade more. And Dayanit, as the chairperson for Hamade Canada, as someone that's in a leadership role for Hamade, and you're also a younger Hamade leader than I would normally see, if you could just talk briefly about us, the youth getting involved, us being more involved, us actually, joining and knowing that we have a space or places that we can potentially be in leadership roles like you are. Just talk a little bit more about that, and just encouraging our young women to be a part of this process.
Yes, as I touched up upon it earlier, I was involved with Hamade for as young as I can think of, and thanks to Hamade, they were able to encourage me to be involved from YPFDJ, working on the in every platform they can think of within our community, and I'm so thankful for that. And it was the encouragement of the Hamade, my mom and the other women's involved, and especially specifically in Toronto and here in Montreal as well. And I can't thank them enough. If it wasn't for that platform, I would not be here today, actually. And all the skills that I've learned, all the knowledge that I've gained. I don't believe in also knowledge is only in schools or found. I have the knowledge that I've gained within the Eritrean community and the Eritrean history and abroad, even back home, is more than I can think of. That what I read, all the books, everything that I learned in school, it doesn't even add up to nowhere near it. So the young people I encourage, especially the young girls, women's too, I encourage to be involved with Hamade and do it our way. You know, let's continue this legacy. They've got us up to this stage where we are today, and let's do it our way also. And keep the commitment, keep the values, of course, and let's do it our way. Let's do it our way and continue the legacy. Keep advocating for all the women's Eritrean and globally, and we're self-reliant. I'm biased when it comes to Eritrean women, so we have that. We know what it means to self-reliant. What it means self-reliant. We've seen it from the top, from the government level, all the way down to the individuals in Eritrea. So that's all across, and there's no one better to advocate for women and show at the same time what it means to be self-reliant. So we are the true example to everyone else. And as well as getting involved, even our young guys too, as a support. And I think when in terms of we're talking women issue, even for good or bad, we also have to get the guys involved as well. And their understanding is what makes it even more fruitful and to get all the barriers out of the way, I could say, and also make them understand and work with us as well. It's the coherent working together what makes it even more vibrant. Men and women working. It doesn't mean necessarily that it's a women organization. It only has to be a women's involved. So I encourage not only young women and young girls to be involved, but also the guys as well at any age level to be supportive of their sisters and their moms and everybody else and continue the legacy on. So take the advantage, take involved within all your cities around, take the advantage of working with everybody else there and get on hands-on skill. You leave the experiences that you'll have and the skills that you can use even outside anywhere in the world that when you go, and it's a reference to you, and it will be, that's something you carry on with you all your life as well. And just like me and Metkal, and when we have our kids, also pass it on to our kids too. So I suggest from today on, when you listen to this, please get yourself involved, whichever cities and branches that you are. And it's a truly, really amazing women association to be involved with when we say Hamade.
Thank you, Danny. Yes, I completely agree as well with that. Knowing, I think for our young people, knowing what Hamade has done and what that organization actually means, what it stands for, and the work that it's already done is inspiration enough to get involved. So I hope learning everything that we've discussed today will encourage them and inspire them to join and be more involved. And I just wanted to open the floor up. If any of you ladies have any closing remarks, anything you wanted to add to anything we've talked about, anything you want that's on your mind you want to share.
Won't believe what I wanted to add on also is that let's take the advantage of all the ones we have right now, all the women who got us to this stage. Let's take the advantage of taking all the experiences off of them and use it as our guidance, and as well as document all our history. This is our own history, what they passed through, and it should be well documented and passed on to the next generation. So that would be our duty, to know our history as Eritrean women, and use it as much as you can. Use them in each city that you have, all the Eritrean women that they've been working day in, day out for us. Let's use them to get to where we are today, and even later on, and carry on the torch on, and start on the next generation. And document, as much as I can say, is document is our own history.
I think I would also just like to add on to the young Eritrean women, to have conversation with the women around you. I think there's so many strong, incredible Eritrean women around us, and we're so used to having them in our life that I think we forget to ask them questions, to ask them about their history. And so I think to just continue to have conversation with the women in our lives, to ask them questions. There's so many warsai ka'alo, tegadelti, Hamade in our lives, and it's so important that we just continue to ask them questions so we can learn more about our history, learn more about Eritrean women, and to just continue our legacy.
Metka, do you have any closing remarks?
Well, I think I like being able to join this organization and understand that it's actually having hands-on impact on the people, and contributing in that sense, for those that are confused or whatever the case may be, like having clarity that this is a separate entity that is actually has hands-on impact on the people, I think is important to to be recognized. So that's all I need to add.
Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing and telling us all about what Hamade means to you, how it shaped your life, and educating everyone about this amazing organization in honor of celebrating Eritrean women everywhere this entire month. I'm hoping that this conversation will continue, and that we will increase our participation as young Eritrean women after this. I know I definitely will be more involved moving forward, specifically with Hamade. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much, and happy International Women's Month.
Thank you.
Say